"We've made incredible strides during the season," Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly said Tuesday. "We're a stronger football team today than we were in August. This space is not one to deep dive on weightlifting techniques and physical fitness, especially not at this time in the week. Rather, let's take senior linebacker and captain Drew Tranquill's word for it. It just continues to allow us to become stronger as the season goes on," he said Wednesday. "I think a lot of programs are probably focused on maintenance throughout the year, just keeping their guys ready to play, whereas our staff has really focused on us getting stronger and growing as the season progresses. This space, however, is one to notice the on-field effects of that strength. Quite literally, the Irish are a better football team entering November than they were in all of September. Aside from the loss, it is hard to find fault with a 5-1 start. Notre Dame won those 5 games by an average of 28 points after all. Yet, the victory at Michigan State hinged entirely upon 3 turnovers. The other victories were hardly against tough opponents, even if Boston College has turned around its season since then. Those beginnings showed little of what was to come in 2 blowouts of top 15 opponents in consecutive weeks. How did the Irish rout both USC and North Carolina State? Though the passing game is still developing, Notre Dame simply played better than it had all season against the best opponents it faced since losing to Georgia in the second week of the year. Turning to 4 statistics referenced here a few times this season, the differences in beating the Trojans and the Wolfpack are stark when compared to the 6 games before the bye week, even when compared to the Michigan State game in particular. Third down conversion percentage. Through 6 games, 39.56%. At Michigan State specifically, 57.1%. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 55.2%. Third down conversion percentage allowed. Through 6 games, 34.95%. At Michigan State, 57.9%. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 31.0%. The Spartans gained yards against the Irish. They kept drives alive. Notre Dame's defense never granted that luxury to the Trojans or the Wolfpack. Turnover margin, through 6 games, plus 1.17 per game. At Michigan State, plus 3. Versus USC and North Carolina State, plus 4 in 2 games, or plus 2.0 per game. Perhaps more vital than the simple margin, Notre Dame did not turn over the ball against the Trojans or the Wolfpack, blocked punt notwithstanding. While the defense continues its aggressive play, the Irish offense has become even more protective of the ball, robbing opponents of chances at short fields or quick points. Rush attempts per game, through 6 games, 43.17. At Michigan State, 40. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 101 in 2 games, or 50.5 per game. Rush attempts against per game, through 6 games, 34.0. At Michigan State, 32. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 55 in 2 games, or 27.5 per game. In a sample size this small, some of that decrease in rush attempts against per game ties to both the Trojans the Wolfpack leaning on their passing games, but that aside, neither wanted to run against Notre Dame in the first place. Meanwhile, the Irish rely on the ground game more than ever. Average yards per pass, through 6 games, 5.73 yards. At Michigan State, 8.65 yards. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 5.46 yards. Average yards per pass against, through 6 games, 5.85 yards. At Michigan State, 6.51 yards. Versus USC and North Carolina State, 6.48 yards. Frankly, allowing fewer than 6.5 yards against the 2 best passing attacks seen thus far this season should be considered an accomplishment, even if it is a bump up from the previous marks.